The slogan, "Strength in Diversity," has echoed since Nigeria got its independence in 1960. This is riding on the premise that the country has multicultural heritage and other resources deposited in all parts of the country, waiting to be enhanced and utilized for the well-being of the citizens and development of the country. The culture and tourism sector possesses this potential, but not many will agree that the country has taken due advantage of this strength in diversity. On the spot, we'll engage one of the national institutes saddled with the responsibility of documenting and promoting the nation's culture to international limelight. I am Joseph Utsan. Welcome to the program. Our guest this week is an administrator with a mind for cultural development, and he holds both bachelor's and master's degrees in history and started his career in civil service in Kano State with the State History and Cultural Bureau. As a research officer, he later moved to the National Council for Arts and Culture to continue as a senior research officer. He will paddle his way through all ranks of the council to position of Director Human Resources Management. On the spot is the Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer, Institute for Cultural Orientation, Ado Muhammad Yahuza. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay, cultural orientation. Nigeria talk about 250 ethnic groups, about 500 languages. It has been there, pardoned his ways, successfully celebrated, and so on. We will have to, in 1993, when this particular council was established, to establish that. Why do we need to do that to reorientate again?
Thank you very much. I think the history of, for us to understand that, we have to understand the history, of the establishment of NICO, National Institute for Cultural Orientation. Actually, it came in on board around 1988, when UNESCO declared decade of cultural development between 1988 to 1997. And UNESCO felt that there's need for every country, to establish a similar organization so that we bring in culture, in day-to-day activities, of people across the world. And in Nigeria, it became a joint kind of effort, and it was made into law, as a substantive government agency by decree of 1993, decree 93 in 1993. So basically, we're about 30 years. Now we call it the National Assembly Act 93, and then in 1993. So the basis for it is obvious, is to try to harness, the diverse culture, of this country, and that use this diversity for national development, for economic and technical development. So that is the essence of establishing NICO. And then, of course, the other wing, to position it as a training institution, for cultural officers to professionalize the work of culture, because of the importance of culture in day-to-day running of any country, in day-to-day running of any society. And I think that is at the back of the mind of the leaders that actually established the institution.
Indeed. Of course, with all this, it is expected that this will enhance national cohesion. We call it boost the economy, exploit that potential there, maybe in tourism and so on. But when you look at the situation in Nigeria, coming to national cohesion, a lot of people have argued that Nigeria is deteriorating. A lot of people instead of us understanding the culture of others, by now we should have understood the culture of people from this particular part of the country, people from this particular part of the country, and moving on. So that will now help us to relate better, and so equally exploit all the potentials in that area. But I think you would agree with me, just like many other people that are out there, that this has not been the case for Nigeria. We still have issues of people having cultural issues and so on.
Well, I think I may not say that we have deteriorated. The thing is that, this diversity has always been there. The way we relate to each other as nation, as cultural groups, quite okay, it may have reduced because of other influences. And in fact, that is why an institution like our NICO is here, to try to promote, to make each other understand, ourselves in terms of our culture, in terms of diversity. Because every country, in most cases, they have this diversity, except that in some other countries you have more. In the case of Nigeria, we have a very big diversity because of our population. And the role NICO is playing is to try to educate, after educating each other, and then try to use this cultural asset and cultural resources for national development. Of course, yes, there are other policies that were deliberately crafted, to promote, this cultural diversity, and therefore cohesion and unity. Like, for instance, the NYC, for instance, if you're talking of this, and then some other programs. These days, things are becoming down because, unlike before, the level of security is much less. People then could go from one end of the country to another without thinking of anything. A young man of about 16, 20 years can travel to do his service from Kano, for instance, to Lagos, from Umuahia to Sokoto and all that. But things have changed. But what we are trying to do in NICO is to try to educate our people, first and foremost, before we do that, understand each other. If we understand each other and we understand the nuances, of our cultural diversity, I think it will bring a lot of unity in this country. And to do that, we do programs that are, cementing and giving the platform for this kind of cohesion we're talking about. For instance,
let me go to, if you are talking about those programs, you are talking about things you are to do at NICO. Why I'm asking that question is, if these things you say you are doing or you are to do are working, we shouldn't be where we are today.
I don't think so, because it's working. You see, there's nothing, it's not something pinit, something that you just do, boom, it happened. It's a process. That's why the diversity you are talking about. Now, in spite of all the crisis and somewhere here, we know each other now better than before because of the coming of so many other technological development and other things. People are knowing each other more and more. But like I told you, in those days, the policies, there were certain, deliberately crafted policies that make people understand. For instance, there was a time in this country, our age, we used to teach history of Nigerian history. People know people from the riverine areas, other from the savannah and all that. At one time, it was stopped. You now brought in something like social studies and all that. But later on, the women realized, especially the last regime, understood that yes, we need to institute back the teaching of history to our youth, so that they should be able to understand, different cultures and all that. So the question is not about deterioration. I think it's about method of reaching that. And one of it that I told you is establishment. We are a government organization. We're doing programs across the country, and then we have offices across the country. And the purpose is to educate, to promote, and then to make people understand, so that in the process you bring unity and cohesion, across the diversity we have as a Nigeria. As Nigeria as a country.
Okay, definitely from the research that you have been conducting and then the documentation of so many of the cultural heritage that we have in the country, that is supposed to have helped to give the government a kind of a direction on terms of the policies that we will make to enhance that particular sector? If you are well traveled, you held so many training workshops and so on across the world. If you look at other places, there was a time we were talking about the Nigerian mission where we were targeting what is going on in Dubai and so on. We are far from it. How much of the work you've been doing there have helped? Have you helped in terms of helping the government with the ideas and so on that will be inculcated in national policies that will take us to that Dubai in Nigeria?
Yeah. Well, I think yes, because part of one of our programs is what we call annual cultural roundtable. We call people, intellectuals who are educated, who are very knowledgeable in the field of something related to issues of culture, to come present papers, discuss, debate, and brainstorm. And then at the end of the day, we come up with a communique which we forward to government, in terms of recommendations and all that, what to do. And the government, in most cases, does implement. And you can see clearly right now what is happening. Like, for instance, the policies the government is coming with. Now you had before Minister of Information and Culture. But the current regime now understands the importance, the centrality of the role of culture. Now it has divided that ministry into three. Right now, NICO is under Minister of Art, Culture, and Creative Economy. So now increasingly the importance of culture in the day-to-day life of Nigerians is becoming very clear. And I think the mandate of the ministry is going to heighten activities towards doing things that the government will now key in to implement what we are going. We are not yet in Dubai. We are not to Dubai, but I can tell you it's a journey we have started. In the journey you are doing, you can quicken the phase of the journey. You can delay the journey. But right now what is happening, we are quickening the phase of the journey towards beyond Dubai. In fact, we are not, because we are better, we are more than Dubai because our population, our diversity and all that. So the potentiality, the cultural resources, the cultural asset we have in the country is much more better. And I think we are on the road. Here and there, and there is no society. There is no society in history does not have hitches here and there. But I think from what we're doing in terms of our policies, in terms of our programs and all that, we are going to go there, even beyond there. That's what I believe.
Okay, that's good. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll talk more about the potential in this cultural heritage in the country. Welcome back to On the Spot with Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer, Institute for Cultural Orientation, NECO, Ado Muhammad Yahuza. Okay, before we were going there, we were talking about some of how to exploit the cultural heritage for economic gains. Nigerian youth. This is one area that you talk about. Not many youth nowadays will even care to know what is going on concerning their culture. They're so westernized. Programs that are even following up, whether it's on TV or on the internet, are foreign programs. Why can't we have a program, maybe a reality TV program too, that will target these youths? That will come, maybe everything there will be our culture, our food, the dressing inside will be cool, so that the youth will equally we take the attention of the youth from here to there. Have you been thinking this direction?
Yeah, very well. In fact, let me tell you, I agree with you. This issue of, the role of our youth, their thinking in terms of westernization, in terms of culture and all that. Now, increasingly, they're becoming westernized, especially with the invasion of the social media. The technology has its own advantage, but it has also its own disadvantage. Because a young man can hold his handset, sit down here, he can travel to America one very crooked corner in America doing this thing. And that's why they get fascinated, with this kind of program, the reality show you're talking about. So in our own case in NICO, realizing that now we introduce culture clubs in secondary schools, so that we can target their mentality at the very young age. In almost all the country here, all the states in Nigeria, we have our own organization that is establishing culture clubs, emphasizing the importance, of culture in the lives, of an individual. And then in terms of dress, in terms of cuisines, in terms of the way you even talk, the indigenous language. Because the problem is this, most of the time it starts from home. The parent these days, they don't speak in their own mother tongue. Somebody grow in his house, mother and father, the same ethnic group, the same language, but they will begin to speak English. And there are some of our Nigerian elite who don't even believe in giving birth in Nigeria. They will go to America, they go to London and give birth to a child. And if somebody does that, how do you think that person will teach his own, the son or daughter his own indigenous language? And mind you, language is not just language, it's a career of culture. It's a vehicle that is carrying the culture. So even right from home, we have destroyed that basis. And so in schools, people now, you go to school, in those days, you go to school that is that you have the son of a permanent secretary and the son of a messenger inside, and then the son of everybody, because it's something that is government. But these days, because of privatization and all that, most of the schools are pay as you go. You go according to what you can afford to. So most of the school you find is a class issue where you have people of high top class in the one school, the one in the middle in another school, and then that. So the issue, we realize that we say, okay, we need to do a lot of orientation in this school so that we disabuse the mind of these youth, so that they will be able to understand the importance of their culture. And the moment the psychology, the moment you apply to the mentality of the youth, they may not necessarily be attracted to what you are talking about. But after that, we also have to think, like what you say, alternative. And I think the sector, I have had discussion with one of the DGs, in our ministry, who is talking about now coming up with something like that, exactly like what you're saying, culture-oriented, reality show, so that we educate, so that we take their mind from what they're doing. And I think this is an ongoing thing, because you have a challenge. For you to have a challenge, you have to look for solution. And I think currently something on ground is coming, so that we'll be able to disable their mind. But what we do as an institution is to target the mind, so that, because they are very impressionistic, you target the mind so that we'll be able to convince them, to make them understand the importance of their culture. Look at what is happening. You are talking about even reality TV. Look at the dresses of our young people, our young ladies. Somebody will wear trousers at the back, they call, what do you call it? At the back, and then the hair is like a madman carrying the hair, and he's thinking that's the one thing. But this is not our culture. I believe if we properly bring our children up, because they are the next generation, they are the next leaders, they are growing, we were going down. So I think once you get that, you get what we are talking about. And I think that's why NICO is doing the culture club I've been talking about.
I think the whole modeling, modeling the minds of these young people. I remember as a kid, we were in Kaduna in those days. I was just about, I think I was just about 8 years, when our dad brought us back home. And then we went for holidays in the village. And then there's that holiday in the village, there's a traditional chief festival, Kwahi, that was done. That was the first time I witnessed the Kwahi festival. Now, it was so interesting, I loved it so much. As kids then, we used to look forward to coming back for that event. We always remind our father that we're going back, we're traveling back. That's when we're in Kaduna. Now, if you look at us these days, the festivals that we've been having, some of the festivals are dying off. This Kwahi festival, I'm telling you, can't remember the last time they held it, even in Benue State. I'm from Benue State, a chief person. It's the same thing with other states and so on. But when you see some of the things that are happening, I witnessed a birthday celebration of one of the politicians of recent. The whole stadium was filled up and so on, and with that celebrating the politician. But the cultural festival in that particular state cannot be celebrated this day that way. Why are we? You should be encouraging government to identify some of these festivals, so that maybe they even become national festivals.
Yeah, I think. Well, let me tell you, that Kwahi you are talking about. You see, one of the roles of NICO, one of our mandate is, as we are first also focal agency for UNESCO, is to identify some of these festivals you are talking about. These are cultural elements we identify and then promote them. Kwahi, for instance, we identify Kwahi. I don't think I agree with you that it's not taking place now. It does. In fact, we took Kwahi to UNESCO, and Kwahi now
it won an international award.
International, yeah. Right now it is one of the inscribed elements Nigeria has gotten in 2019. And today, in fact, I just came back about a week ago, not less than a week ago, from Botswana. We had another UNESCO meeting where we inscribed, Shango Festival, in Oyo. We also got inscription for traditional midwifery. In fact, the second one, this traditional midwifery, it was a multinational file with Germany and other countries. So I think what we do, we are doing this identification, because the thing is that you are like in a wrestling arena, wrestling with something getting extinct. With influences, Western influences coming, but we're trying to do the rescue mission so that we'll be able to. But mind you have to understand one thing. Who does the festival? It's the people. If you don't control the mind, you don't make them understand the importance, of the festival will die. So we start from those people, and then of course they let them take, the ownership of their own, and then find the importance of those festivals so that they will be able to continue with that. So I think, and as an arm of government, this is what we're doing, and I think we are achieving, because increasingly, when you inscribe, you attract some certain support from international support for it to continue. And that is what we've been doing. And I think about Nigeria, like you, it's a very big society. You have so many festivals across culture, across religion, which, of course, yes, it has to be gradually done. That is what it is.
Okay. Most of our time, our eyes are out there to the Western world. But I watched the burial of late Queen Elizabeth, the coronation of King Charles. If you watch that, you'll see that everything was done based on their culture, tradition, and so on. That's the West that will always look at that. But back home here, sometimes we don't hold on to this so much. We are rather looking at what is happening out there. I think, why can't we make it like a national issue that we could have, when there's a tradition, something happening, everything has to be cultural. Just the way the British did it.
Yeah, but Mike, you have to understand the history. British, was not colonized like the way they colonized others. The role of colonization, colonization itself is a process of imposing somebody's culture on you. In the case of them, they have a long tradition that has been there for thousands of years. Our own, we were colonized, and they impose some of this cultural kind of mentality to us. So it has to be gradual. The way you do it now, it's not something that you can do. You cannot expect societies like in Africa, like in Nigeria, to just be like that. But I think why the government established institutions like us is for that purpose. To try to educate, to now promote, to disabuse the mind, of Nigerians, so that let them understand the role of culture and the importance of culture in the day-to-day life of the citizens. And I think that's what we're doing. And we are achieving. And that's why the Kwahiru you talk about, we are able to find out. In fact, when you have an evaluation committee. The evaluation committee normally is made up of many countries, many members of another countries and all that. They evaluate, and they found it worthy. And now UNESCO is giving small support, and we as government, we are also supporting them so in such a way that it will not die, it will also continue to prosper, it will be able to go international, so that it will be able to attract even some investment for the country.
Sorry, thank you so much, Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer, Institute for Cultural Orientation. NECO. Ado Muhammad, Yahuza, thank you for being on the spot.
Thank you very much.
That is it this week. See you next episode. Bye-bye.